In 2018, Penguin released a collection of 50 classic books by 50 classic authors. We're going to be going over them in the next few weeks and delving into the issues behind what the writers were writing about. Follow us. Audre Lorde, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house.
What a title.
Now, our beloved Angela Davis, in 2014, she did a speech at a university, and she made the point that without Audre Lorde, there would be some seriously lacking contributions to literature, to poetry, to feminism in particular. I think that kind of speaks to how significant she is as a black poet, as a black feminist in this time. So how did you feel about reading some Audre Lorde this time?
Yeah, it was really heavy, to the point where I find with a lot of books you have a great line.
Yeah.
Filler. Another great
Okay.
line. Filler.
Okay.
And that's a good book.
Yeah.
And that's a good book.
Yeah.
Right? But with her, I feel like it's definitely...
It's all just great stuff.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
banged in there. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's really, really heavy, and particularly the title. You know, it's so relevant. I feel, you know, this kind of idea of, you know, from the outside I'm going to go in, I change things, it's going to be wonderful, and of course it never happens. You know, the mind, heart, and soul change once these.
Other things come into play.
Once these other things come into play, once you're
external
inside the
factors,
house. Okay.
Once
you're inside the
that's
house.
That's the field
the house
Negro and the house Negro thing coming.
Right.
So once the field Negro gets into the house, then suddenly becomes the house Negro. He changes.
And it's in speech, it's in thought, and the way that she articulates how there are alternatives. Yeah. But it doesn't come easy. You know, it's not as easy as going in. It's much more kind of very sensitive feelings of empowerment that I never conceptualized before. You know, so I think you know, at the time, particularly at the time, writing these things about, you know, going within oneself and taking one's own feelings seriously is just, you know, that it's not this kind of outer perception of it being, which again it's stereotyped as being feminine, right? As instability, childishness, something that isn't rational, essentially. Whereas her point is that's where power actually comes from. It's you know, it feels for something to feel right. You know, there is no kind of analysis that can be done on that. Okay, yeah, it's about feeling, and you know, and survival, essentially. And for her to, you know, be in these situations and say, you know, I as a mother have to survive in these conditions in this country, and all of these various, which she speaks about the conference, for example, being one of the only black women invited to talk, kind of thing, as this kind of symbol of tokenism, and she completely trailblazes through and saying, you know, there's a difference between this kind of ooh la la and survival, and that's one of the main differences between her and other writers. You can feel the urgency. You can feel this is now, this is the situation we're in, and the response has to be urgent. It has to be right now. There's no time for kind of this mysticism. See, that's the thing, right? So this is where we get to Ginsberg, because Ginsberg was like, look, I just ejaculated and it was so transcendental, and you know, I'm in the clouds and it was amazing. And I think he describes all of that really well, and I understand what he means. But you're saying that Lorde's poetry is more here and now. It's even like, within the erotic. Even within the eroticism. Right, exactly, because she's still got the eroticism in there. But it's like, this eroticism is my way to being a woman and manifesting my power here on this plane, right? On Earth.
right? So I mean that I think that's a really interesting difference.
Not this abstract.
Not this abstract kind of, and machines in the sky came down to fight the capitalists. The type of things that she needs the power here. She needs the power to survive in this time. I found that really, 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 really interesting. And so you say there's a sense of urgency there that you don't get with Ginsberg.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And I guess it goes back to the kind of growing up as a black woman in the time that she did, having 2 kids and a husband, going through these kinds of cycles, essentially witnessing Malcolm X die, all of these things, that affects you, and your need for liberation, your need for freedom it's not like it's do or die essentially at this point, and that's the urgency that she's trying to propagate to the other what you call white feminists.
Okay.
To you and maybe the feelings that you may have, there's differences and unity, and one of the most powerful parts was unity comes not everyone being the same, but actually coming together in those differences. And it's those I mean, this stuff, like when people talk about it today, sounds new, but it's,
right. I agree with what you're saying. I think in terms of a more grounded eroticism, or even a more grounded poetry or appreciation of life, she's saying what she's talking about, it comes out through that we understand today in mainstream feminism, which is that sexual liberation is real, right? And what we mean when we say that is we mean after sexual experiences, there are hormones which are released which change your body, right? This is real. So she's talking about that as a way of asserting herself and becoming, somebody that she needs to be in this time. So I think that's really interesting. I speak here of poetry as the revelation or distillation of experience, not the sterile wordplay that too often the white fathers distorted the poetry to mean, in order to cover a desperate wish for imagination without insight. So just like Camus and Low-Key and Orwell, she's distinguishing between types of poetry. Stuff that's a bit airy-fairy, and we don't really need that right now, or at least that's good to look at, and stuff that's here and now, and that is useful, and stuff that we need
which
as well.
Which still takes the kind of the poetic mysticism from the airy-fairy stuff, but grounds it into something that people can resonate to.
Yeah, because all the spiritual stuff always has to have a corresponding materiality element. I mean, otherwise it is airy-fairy. We need a way to relate to this, or it doesn't mean anything.
She says, when she talks about learning from the 1960s, when I read Malcolm X with careful attention, I find the man much closer to the complexities of real change than anything that I've read before. Essentially, which is, again, it's something that I've often found with Malcolm, is the fact that his desire, his impetus for change reflects the change and transformation that he went through, and that it's the same with Lorde. Essentially, there's cyclical changes, and that reflects your urgency for things to change, because you see that is possible within yourself. And that this can kind of expand on a more social level.
Yeah, I like how she challenged the white orthodoxy or the male orthodoxy. I mean, she does both at the same time. Sure. So she says, the white fathers told us, I think, therefore I am. So that's a go at Descartes. The black mother within each of us, the poet, whispers in our dreams, I feel, therefore I can be free. Right. So it's not something that we haven't seen before. I mean, we've seen Voltaire in France going at the religious orthodoxy. We've seen people over here, Douglas Carswell, going at the political class. But what she's doing is she's also feminizing these ideas. So she's saying the man said that this is how it's about the thought, but she's introduced the proposition of the female heart as well.
The important aspect of that is not I feel, therefore I am free.
is
that I can
become free.
I can become juicy, and so there's still work there.
Okay, there's still work to do.
The emotional content. It's acknowledgement, but then it's actually putting into.
Okay, it's kind of like what Orwell did. I mean, he made suggestions for how to get there. He didn't say that we're all going to become this thing. Right, exactly. He says like this is. I mean, we may not be able to, but it's possible to get to that point. So thank you very much, Amir. So Audre Lorde, the Master's Tools, will never dismantle the Master's house.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this one in terms of numbers out of 10?
Yeah, I'd definitely give it a solid 9.
Solid 9. Yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely recommend this one.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.